Greetings and welcome back to your stable friend. Let's get right to it. There's a lot to talk about this week. What a weekend on social media. Man, did I start a few fires that are still the embers are still burning. It is Monday and I'm still getting notifications on a couple of posts. Let's talk about one though from last week. I dared to get involved with a post that was not my post about stabling. I saw a really depressing stabling situation and I made a comment about it. As I always say, if I see it, I'm going to say it. And I want to make a little disclosure right now for any of my non-fans who are watching who love to call me a hypocrite. Let me say this about that. If somebody out there knows what the word is for this, then I would love to know what it is. It's like a hypocrite, but it's someone who is not saying something dishonest. It's the honest version of a hypocrite. I stable some of my horses. I do. I've always been 100% honest about that. It's why I often don't join in those conversations because I don't want someone to call me a big fat hypocrite. Because I'm not, and let me tell you why. If I was a smoker, and I knew all of the risks about smoking, and I had a young friend who was going to start smoking, I would tell them, dude, you don't want to start. It's the hardest habit to break. It causes all kinds of problems. Forget about, even lung cancer and emphysema. All kinds of other health issues are being linked to smoking. You don't want to do it. If you're a woman, there's so many different kinds of cancers. I don't have to be a non-smoker to tell someone, don't smoke. Actually, it's almost better if I am a smoker and I'm telling you not to smoke. Why would someone want to call me a hypocrite and say, oh, you're such a hypocrite, you smoke? Yes, I admit it. I stable my horses. Yes, I'm a smoker. I'm not really a smoker. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. But yes, I stable my horses. But I can still tell you that stalling them in a cage or a jail cell is bad. Bad for their health, bad for their mental health, their physical health, their spiritual and psychic health. Bad. I can keep my horses in a stall and still tell you that. One thing has nothing to do with the other, and I'm not a hypocrite. I'm someone telling you out of experience, if I could change something about my stabling and make it even larger and more roomy, I would. But here is the thing in my defense about my stabling. My stabling is an open concept stabling. 29 years ago, I called North Coast Barns and Corrals and told them what my idea was, and they said that they thought that they could do that for me, and they did. They did a beautiful job. And it's held up pretty well in 29 years. I mean, horses, as we know, are very hard on everything. It's held up pretty well. The stalls are a 12 by 12 inside stall with a wide open doorway to the back of a 12 by 12 pipe corral. The horses have a choice of where they want to go. They can be outside, they can be inside. Between each stall is an open grill. It's not bars, it's 2 bars. They can put their heads over, they can touch each other, they can groom each other, they can go outside where it's pipe corral on the outside. They can groom each other, they can touch each other. They can see the entire herd. They can see all of the horses, so they're never nervous that someone's not there or something happened. They can see each other. They can groom and touch their neighbors. They can put their heads out over the door, and it's an open shed row. It's not a closed barn aisle, so all they can see is the horse across the aisle from them, if they're lucky. It is all open, all around, with nice view, 360-degree view of nature, of people coming and going, of the arena, of a small turnout area. There's a lot to see. There's a lot of stimulation. To me, I can accept that. It was 29 years ago, nobody had that. Everybody was in a 10 by 10 or a 12 by 12. So, 29 years ago, that was a huge thing to have like an in and out like that. Now, it would be great to have double the space for each of them. I'm in the city. I can't leave them out in the open. It's very dangerous for us to do so. We're also up against a hill and there's lots of wild animals. I wouldn't want to just leave them in a wide open area. A lot of my horses are older and retired, 32, 29, older. It's nice for them to have their meal separate from others and be able to have their meal and still get to have their friends and still get to touch each other and still get to see each other and feel that they're living in a herd situation. Okay? There is my disclosure. So, hi, my name is Nina and I stable my horses. I am telling you that to me would be, for me, I'm telling you for me, that's the minimum. That's the bare minimum, a 12 by 24 in and out stall. If I didn't have that and I was still in 12 by 12s or heaven forbid 10 by 10s, I would be very sad. I'd be very sad and trying to figure out a way to change that. This is on the borderline for me. I can accept this, but the reason I can accept it is because my horses are out for 5 hours a day, minimum. Some days it's longer. And not are they just out, they're out doing whatever they want to do. They're on over 5 acres of land doing whatever they want to do. They can stay in the barn, they can go and eat off of my haystack. I don't care. They can do whatever they want to do. And people don't like that either. That really bothers people that my horses can do what they want to do. They're all adults. They've learned the ways of the world, and I trust them to do what they want to do. So, back to the stalls. I think it is absolutely 100% inhumane to keep your horse in a 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 or even a 14 by 14 enclosed inside barn stall with bars on the windows and no view and nothing to look at, no open window, no place for them to stick their neck out over, no way to see friends, no way to touch noses, where all they can do is make a small circle. No. I mean, how can you feel that I am wrong to say this? I don't care if it's, but I have a fan on him and he gets all these enrichment toys. It's like, please, don't clutter up his stall with toys. He barely has any room to walk around in anyway. Keep the toys out of there. Get him out to play. Don't bring playtime into him because he can barely move as it is. I thought of something the other day that really made me sad because I'd never thought of this before. It just came to me. And I hope it makes you sad enough to think about how you could change your horse's world. Whether it's moving to a facility that respects the horse more and isn't about the bottom line and how many boarders they can get in, or maybe you're at a place where all the boarders could get together and say, hey, what would it take for us to bring in a welder and get some of the bars taken off so the horses can stick their heads out? Hey, what would it take to get a contractor in to do windows so the horses could look out? There's things that you can do. You just don't have to take what, is offered. You can say, maybe the barn owner would love to do something like that, but can't afford to, and would love everyone to chip in and get something like that done. Maybe there's a facility that's new that you haven't seen yet, or one that's old that you haven't seen yet, where they can give your horse a better way of life. You have to ask yourself, why am I at the barn or stable that I'm at? Is it because I like the people? Because you know what? You chit-chat and hang around with the people for a couple hours, then you go home. Your horse is there for now 22 hours sitting in that jail cell. Jail cell. I mean, seriously, I'm not trying to sound dramatic here, and hopefully I don't sound too dramatic, but a murderer in a jail cell has a better living situation than most horses who are living in an indoor stall. I mean, think about it. I mean, it's true. It's true. A small, isolated space where you can barely move and you're restricted, I mean, that's jail. Is it not jail? People get so upset about, the zoo animals and cages. What's the difference of having your horse in a cage than a tiger or a lion? What's the difference of keeping an elephant in a very small enclosure than a horse in a very small enclosure? Yeah, maybe like 1,000 pounds or a couple thousand pounds or so. But it's the same thing. It's a being of the wind who needs to move when the spirit moves it, this being. and you're enclosing them in this tight, cramped area where it's all they can do to just lie down and get up, and that's it. That's the only choice they have. So here's the thing that I thought about. A dolphin and a horse are probably, a small dolphin, are probably similar in proportion and weight to a horse, right? I didn't think to Google it to really, see, but in my mind, a dolphin and a horse about the same size. Would you think for a second that there would be any way that would be humane to keep a dolphin in a 12 by 12 tank the size of a stall, or a 10 by 10 tank and the size of a stall? Imagine your horse's indoor stall as a tank of water with a dolphin in it. Oh my God, I get like panicky and claustrophobic thinking about that. That there is this being that for every part of the way that its DNA is programmed, it needs to move. It has to have some movement. And it's in this tiny little area where probably more than half of the day, probably 9/10 of the day, is in this small enclosure where it can't move. It's horrible. It's horrible. And imagine that dolphin in there alone, knowing that they're extremely familial and have friends and relationships and how smart they are. Imagine that dolphin being isolated, not even being able to see another dolphin on the other side, not being able to touch its nose just going up to the glass every time, not being able to have any physical interaction with another of its kind. That was just a horrible thought. Like, I think about it and it makes me anxious and claustrophobic. But that's what you're doing to horses. That's what you're doing to them. They are just like a dolphin. They need to move. I believe they need to move 30 miles a day. And I don't think that's in a small, tight circle in a 12 by 12 stall. I don't think that that's supposed to count. I think moving 30 miles a day is probably supposed to be more linear, that you have some place to go. I can talk to you about this and still keep my horses in a stall. I can tell you that it's something that I would love to change. I've even thought about it maybe could we open up the backs and do this? And I think about different things all the time. But right now, as I said, I'm satisfied knowing that they're out for a very good portion of the day. And when they're in, they can all see each other. They can touch their neighbors, groom their neighbors, play with their neighbors, feel safe because they can see everybody. They have shade, they have sun. If it's raining, they can decide to stand out in the rain or they can come in. That's some choice. I know that, people say, oh, well, my horse's accommodations are as nicer than some people that I know. I can honestly say that mine are. They have their little apartment and they have their little lanai, their patio they can go out to. I'm satisfied with that for right now. So if you'd like to call me a hypocrite, you're more than welcome to. But I'm telling you that if I had all the money in the world and the resources, I probably would do something different. To me, that's the minimum. 12 by 24, whether it's a pipe corral or it's an in and out or it's a round enclosure, to me that is the minimum. That's the minimum. Yes, I am doing the minimum. But, that's the whole point about welfare and about knowing better and doing better and trying to do what you can with what you have. No one is expected to do something that they can't do. You got a horse. Maybe at the time you got the horse, you didn't understand exactly what the horse's needs were. I didn't. How many years ago did I get my first horse? How old am I? So over 40 years ago I got my first horse, and it was completely acceptable for Speedy to live in a 12 by 12 a metal barn, but in the desert, a 12 by 12 box stall with grills on all of the windows except the one over the stall door, and that was the only place he could put his head over. And it got hot in that cell. It got hot in that cell. He was out and turn out for maybe a couple hours during the day, and then right back in it. And no wonder he got very, very barn sour. But the other way around, he didn't want to go back to his stall. He was more than happy to leave it and didn't want to go back there. But I didn't know because I didn't have anybody like me making a YouTube video to tell you it's not good. No bueno. So if there's something that you can do, if your horse is in this situation and there is something that you can do, I beg you to consider what you could do to do it. What can you do to make your horse's living situation more in line with what his natural needs are? Somebody wrote down that they live someplace in, I can't remember where it was, New Zealand or Africa, someplace very exotic, where there's some sort of a mite or a bug that goes into the horse's lungs and kills them. Certainly, if you have something like that, keep your horses inside. 100%. No one is saying that. No one is an extremist here. I am far from being an extremist. I think people love to pin that on me because they just want to disagree with me and they just don't like what I'm saying. So they feel if they label me an extremist, then no one's going to want to listen to me. I am not. As I always say, there's a very long spectrum. I'm a little bit, I'm in the middle, but a little bit over to the way that wants to try to do what's most natural for them. That would not include living in a small, dark, possibly the only light, a fluorescent, strobing fluorescent light for 20 hours out of the day. They need a view. They need to touch their friends. They need to be able to play with their friends. They need to be able to see other horses, touch other horses, smell other horses. They need to be able to have a choice of where and how they're going to stand more than, do I want to face this way, this way, this way, or this way? They need more of a choice than that. Or if their only choice is, do I want to lie down or stand up? They need more of a choice than that. And putting but my stall has a stall guard on it, and so for a few hours out of the day, he can put his chest out into the barn aisle. Okay, if you're going to tell yourself that that's helpful, that's fine. And okay, maybe you're doing something, opening the door. That's a start, but that's only a start. That's only a start. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and please leave us your comments. Thanks so much.